Okay, so the point that Thomas was talking about was, let's say you had, I'm going to go ahead and lock these actually. You can, within a layer, you can actually lock individual lines as well as the entire layer. So if I wanted to do that without accidentally adding to that line, I think some of you guys found out that when you use the pen tool on a segment, it tries to add to it. If you don't want that behavior, then just lock that line. So I can snap to that though, and I can draw an angled line. And now, like what Thomas was saying, if you move a line holding shift, it's going to restrict it to, it's going to move straight up and down, or it's going to move straight left and right.
That's not what I meant.
Not what we meant, okay. Extending the line?
Yeah.
Oh. No, go ahead.
I don't know how to use your mouse.
It's got 2 buttons and
it's got several things going on.
It's pretty zoomy.
Oh, you're talking about the yeah, that's a good thing.
It's a very good thing to know in Illustrator.
Yeah. Yeah, we're going to talk about that in a second. Actually, what he's actually doing is actually scaling the line. And when you hold the shift button, it restricts the scale to, it's basically like uniform in all directions.
Changes the proportion. It
Yeah.
doesn't change the proportion. So.
And so what that does is it allows him, yeah, that's a nice trick. I like that. And then what you can do, guys, if you want to actually click that,
Thank you.
is you can pick the anchor point on the end of it, and because of the way that smart snaps work in Illustrator, you can grab that point and snap it to the ghost intersection of those 2 pieces, and so you actually don't even have to trim it. It's actually a quick operation.
But be careful when you have more than one line, because
Yeah,
you
it
can
snaps
snap
everything.
to something else.
Yeah,
Just like AutoCAD.
exactly. But I like that. Yeah. Eve.
How do you, when you click on a line, sometimes it has on the end bar there's those 2 points, and those 2 points sometimes are like filled, and sometimes they're not filled. They have like a white space in between. How can you toggle through that so you can use?
Well, okay, there's 2 different kinds of selection. There's this kind of selection, which is the black selection, which is where you want to move an entire object at once or scale it. And then there's this other white selection, which is actually the point selection. And that's how you can move these individual points. So if I use the white selection and I pick it, then I just get those points.
Yeah.
Okay? Now, a point that's selected is filled. See, it's dark and the other one's open. So that's what that difference is. I'm not sure if I'm answering your question, but that's the difference between the different modes of selection. Okay? So you got to be careful because, like,
it does different things.
this won't allow you to choose the points. This just allows you, like, I can scale it. I could like rotate it. Okay? But the point selection is this direct selection tool. Okay? There was a question up there. Ryan?
Is he asking about, like, when you click the line, you go up top and click stroke?
When you go up top and click stroke?
Select the line? Yeah.
Many places to choose.
I was gonna say, yeah.
And then at the end it says cat.
Oh.
No, I wasn't talking about that.
No,
It just-
but that's worth talking about as well. I think some of the, I'm going to pick on my students because I have some of their work already on my computer. Yeah. Let's see here. I'm going to get into my Firefox.
When you either when you extend it the way that I was doing, or whether you scale a line, it doesn't change the line weight. You guys figure that out?
We'll talk about that in a second too. So I'm going to pick on Evan because I remember this from class. But you see these how these ends are kind of like open. They're kind of jagged. We don't want that. Okay. And so a quick way to fix that in Illustrator is just to make sure that your line types are set. This is bridging off of what Ryan just said. Make sure your caps are rounded and your corners are rounded. That's going to just kind of smooth over those things. If you have a mitered edge, sometimes you get that kind of division. This just kind of fills it in a little bit better. It's not good when you're zoomed in, but when you're zoomed out, like we'll probably be for these, it looks just fine. It's just going to fix that little craft issue. Like on Evans, I started. I mean, you can even kind of notice it. It's kind of fuzzy on the end there. So that's what we want. Okay, we want like a nice corner instead of this kind of jagged corner.
Can you do that through the layers?
Yeah, I mean you could do it. Anything you select, you can apply that to. So just choose everything and then rounded. That's it. Okay.
Sometimes I don't like what rounded does.
I know, and we had a whole different difference of opinion on this in AutoCAD, but it's quicker to do this in Illustrator. It works in Illustrator. If it doesn't look good, change it back. But that's the idea. Also, a big thing, a reason why that might be happening is that your lines aren't actually joined together, and so you might need to go with the pen tool and just heal those corners. Okay, just kind of fix those corners together. If you've got 2 points, for instance, that are like that, and we're just going to beef these up here. You might need to go in and just heal them up. You know, just kind of quickly fill that in, and then when you zoom out and they're big enough, it might fix that. So just, or you could take the point and move it with the direct selection tool. You can just kind of snap it to that end.
Or this is tedious, but how do you do undo?
Control Z. We're in PC land.
Control Z.
Control Z. Yeah. Oh, you can.
If it really matters, and it might,
And sometimes it does.
and sometimes it does.
They're really overlapping.
You know,
do that?
but then you go back. You know, like you go more than you need, because if you change the angle, what happens when you change the angle of a line is that you're putting it to a different vanishing point.
Yeah, it's true.
And so you don't want to change. There are times when you don't want to change the angle of a line because that completely changes the logic of the drawing.
And you can, there are various ways to snap those together. Actually, we'll show you. So we're going to have you guys do a layout for Wednesday. So I just want to talk briefly about how we're going to have you do this in Illustrator. I know some of you guys know InDesign, but you've probably never done a layout in Illustrator. It's actually not that difficult, so I just want to cover a few basic things as to how you might do that. We started to cover some of them. Once you've got your lines, you've made your architectural, you've made like your composition. You want to you can put them all like in the same file together by doing like a copy paste, or you can place them into a file together, sort of similar to InDesign. And then you can select everything, and to move something around, you just put the mouse on a line and you just move it. You actually just kind of pull it around, okay? Let me open this up here. Why am I not getting my transform? Huh, not getting my, oh, you know what? Because it's on a white layer. If you have the layers come in with a color. You can change the color by double clicking it and just change it to a color. Yeah. The Make 2D Hidden Lines comes in on a white layer, and so on a white background, you won't see the lines, and you won't see the like selection border. So that's kind of you just need to change that to a different color. Something visible, not yellow probably. Okay. And then so if you've got this, you got the selection border. This is like what Thomas is doing. You can transform the scale of it by using these kind of handles on the corner. Now you don't want to do this though the way I'm doing it because it distorts it. Okay. What you want to do, I need to select both of these actually. Just go ahead and like select everything. If you hold down Shift though, it restricts it to a uniform scale, and so now you can scale it, and it'll preserve the actual same scale dimensions. It'll preserve the line weights. I'm going to show one more thing, and then I'll answer your question. So the other thing you can do, if you're more, if you like numbers, I guess, numerical, you can go into Object, Transform, Scale, and you can actually type in the scale you want. So if you want 50% or you want 125, 150, 200, and then there's also a box to scale the strokes and effects. If you do that, it'll actually optically scale it. So if I made it bigger, the line weights would actually get thicker. So if I had a line weight that's 1 and I made it twice the size, the line weight would be 2. If I don't check that, the line weight stays 1. Even though it's bigger, the weights are preserved. Okay? If you have a problem with whatever that scale is, whatever the new scale is, let's just, for the sake of, so it actually bumped it up. Now it's 2 point, right? You can go in and you can select same stroke weight, and you can change it to whatever you want, right? No need to select everything or like sort it out. Just use the new layer, use the new line weight to rescale it. Question?
You did that by selecting a single line of the line that you wanted?
Yep.
And
then, that's sort of like my prototype or like my template, and then everything else is based on that. So I say select same weight, select same color, whatever. Okay. So even if the scale does something and you want to change it, you can always, that's a quick way to do it. Okay. So again, you can scale things explicitly by going into Object Transform and then Scale. So if you want a particular size, you do that. Okay.
And with the orthographic diagrams and the axons, which actually are measured, are measurable,
Yeah.
you might want to use the percentages more than the random.
Yeah. If you, or at least be consistent in how you do it. So every time you export one, you always bring it in, and it's always 50% of the size or something like that. Yeah. So that's one way to maintain that sort of like consistency in your drawings. Okay, so that one, and then a really quick thing. We had you guys do some writing today, I think, and you guys are gonna, we're gonna have you write a few lines to sort of like support what you're doing in the diagrams. And so text is pretty easy in Illustrator. Take the text tool, type tool, and you can draw a box, and then whatever you type into it, and this is very tiny right now, but it's gonna scale to that box, and I want to say blah, not blash. Okay, and you can change the font, you know, up here. I wouldn't mess with it, actually. Myriad's fine. You can change the size of it if you like. Cut and paste it from a text editor that you've spell checked yourself on. Okay, and
He can't stress that enough.
yeah, it's really embarrassing, like how bad the. And let me just show you something real quick. So if you've got your text, once you've got that text box, I imagine you'll be doing some editing with the layout. So you can actually change the size of the box, and it will dynamically scale your text. Okay, so if you have more space or less space, cuts it off actually. So you can do that. You can go in and change the font size. Again, I'd probably stick with Myriad. I think that's what like Michael says. So I'm not going to talk about that too much, but that's how you can introduce text. So copy paste your text into a text box, and then you can use the handles to manipulate it. The same thing applies to a scale. You can scale it using the like shift and the handle. So that's text.
Justified?
Oh, you can change any of that. It's actually not, because it's the same letters. But so here, if you want to change the paragraph style, go in. You could justify it left. You can center it. I think justified or just regular alignment left is fine. Don't do anything too funky. Okay, so I just wanted to cover just some of the basic things for working on a layout. Just to reiterate, to do your layout, you might start a new file and then change the units to inches, and then begin to, you know, say 24 by 36. And then start to build your layers, and then paste things into layers and lay them out that way. Okay. So that should cover, and then you can make this a PDF and you can print it. I think actually you can send it from Illustrator right to the printer, and that should take care of that for you. I'm covering this pretty fast, but anything else you guys have questions about with layout?
Is there a specific way we need to transfer from like our original file to the 24 by 36 page?
It will mess up your layers. So I would sort things out first in your file, the one you started with, and then make a new layer and then paste it into that layer to avoid them being all sandwiched together. If you think you're going to do any more editing with it at all, I would finish the any of the line work stuff before you start the layout. Like, don't try to finish it in the layout. Okay. Layout should just be for actually moving things around, scaling them, adding the text, like that kind of thing. Okay. Some fine tuning, but I would make a separate layer for each one and paste them in just so that you avoid any, you know, so that's it's not too confusing.
And you can show them group.
Yeah, you can certainly group things together, guys. So if I go in, you can say object group. This actually creates kind of a sub layer. Okay, so these are all grouped together. Now if I choose anything, I actually choose the entire group. And then I can cut it, and I can go into my file, make a new layer, you know, paste in front. And so now it's in there, and then I can actually open up that layer. But you see though, it actually does eliminate. I had two layers in there. I had the hidden line layer and I had the regular line layer, and that actually like removed those from there. Okay, you can also ungroup stuff. So what you could do though is once you get it in there, right, hide all your other layers, and if you absolutely have to, use the select same, and then move those on to a separate like sub layer. So I could go into my layers, and I could say you know, well, I'll do this, say new hidden lines. Drag that under my layer, and then I could say object arrange send to, oops, I'll do this again. Same stroke weight. No, actually, I might need to put this out on its own layer. That's fine. Send a layer. Okay, so you can do that. And then, one thing that my class had trouble with was you have to have the layer selected that you want to send it to, otherwise it doesn't go anywhere. Okay, so pick the layer first and then send it to that layer. I'm not sure if, well, now I can make it a sublayer. I don't know why I couldn't send it to a sublayer, but so you can do that. So you could have each one of your things have separate sublayers, and that'll work. But anyway, you should do most of your laying out. You should do most of your composition before you do your layout, and that'll take care of a lot of those issues for you. Okay. I think there's some other questions people had.
Nick, do you think they should have the artboard tool? Because if they want to keep it all in one big window and try multiple compositions or multiple layouts, that way they don't have to have new windows for each layout? You
could do that. I'm not gonna talk about that, but you can have more than one artboard, guys, and the artboard is the kind of printable like space, so you could explore alternates that way. You could also, because what prints is actually what's in the artboard. So if you wanted to, I suppose you could actually snap to the edges of the artboard and drag a copy off to the side and like work on your composition, you know, that way, and then kind of move things over. I don't tend to do that. I tend to keep working on the same board, but that's possible. Or have more than one file.
Hey, how did you get the artboard one time?
I just drew a rectangle.
Oh,
And I just moved it over. It's not really artboard. You can add like new artboards, which are like alternate kind of like views of it. I don't usually do that, but you can look that up if that's if you think that's helpful. Okay, so any questions about? I have some questions that my class had about Rhino. Do you guys have any questions about exporting from Rhino? Any of the other things inside of Adobe Illustrator that came up?
In Illustrator, like when you use the pen tool,
Yeah.
I noticed whenever I try to do a line in one layer, and then I snap to another layer, like it turns into that layer and like kind of pieces.
That's why you gotta lock your layers if you're going to be adding any lines.
So
Yeah.
if I lock the layers, it will like
It can't add to a line if that layer's locked.
okay.
Yeah. Ryan?
Guidelines.
Yeah. Yeah, I didn't talk about guidelines.
Ruler and then just drag. And then short.
Yeah. Okay. So if you want guidelines, guidelines are a special kind of line that doesn't show up. It can be snapped to, but you can't. It doesn't print. To do that, Ryan, the way I do it is I go into View, Show Rulers, and I just drag them out, and so that's a guideline. And this works in Adobe Illustrator too. I mean, in Adobe Photoshop. So if you wanted to have like a registration line, if you wanted your vanishing, if you wanted to make your line for your horizon a guideline, you could do that. You can also make a line. You don't need to do this, but you can make a line a guideline. So just make a line, and I think you go into Guides, Make Guide, and that will turn that line you just made into a guideline. I prefer to actually draw the lines, like to have my lines as if they were drawn, and then use those for guides. I just have them locked, and I just snap to them. But you guys may use guides, so that's how guides work. They don't print. You can hide them. You can also clear them out. You just hit clear, and they disappear.
Are you hiding your coordinates?
I'm not hiding them. They're just not. They're not in this view.
Your what?
I don't think I have coordinates turned on. Yeah, yeah, like I know what you're saying. I think when you have an object, yeah, they're not showing up. Yeah, you should be able to actually see what the coordinates are. If you open up the transform, you can see where that is in the X and the Y. So that's what this drop down is. Is that what you're talking about, Thomas?
Yeah, it's usually showing.
Yeah, usually it is. I don't know why that setting's not turned on, but here I can adjust the size, the width, and the height of that piece, or the X and the Y coordinate of it. So if you're really into like precision, you can actually type those in. In ArcTextR.
We're not into vagueness.
You can also, if you lock the width and the height of an object, Then if you change one of those dimensions, it's going to scale it dynamically to that same proportion. Okay? So transform, if you don't have that open, you can open up the transform palette. There may be, yeah, that's interesting, Thomas. I don't know. You know, you make a good point. What's that?
Is that a PC thing?
Yeah, it might be a PC thing. PC people aren't precise, apparently. I don't know. I'm making that up. Yeah, good point. I think on the Mac it is actually in that default thing. It's up in the upper left. But it's there, it's just not visible. Okay, any other, I know there are probably questions about Rhino and things. Adam? Did you?
There are in my class, I know.
Yeah, I thought you had a hand raised.
Yeah,
No?
question. I have one about Illustrator.
Oh, okay.
Sometimes when I'm selecting a bunch of lines together, I don't get that bounding box with the handles on the side.
Again, that may be because that layer is white. Like I said, is that it's there, but it's white, so you can't see it.
Okay.
So you just need to change the layer color to a color that's visible on the white artboard. Okay. Otherwise, check to see if things are locked, things like that. Yeah.
Is there
Christian.
a way to crop in Illustrator the same way you would in Photoshop?
There is. I don't like the Pathfinder tool. Is a particular. There's a branch of tools. So I'm going to make. Let's assume that the circle is some lines I want, or I'll put some lines in here. And so I can go into Window, Pathfinder, and so there's all kinds of things like you can do. This one actually divides up shapes. There's a trim, merge. Divide, I think, is the one that I use that makes the most sense to me. When you hit divide, it inserts a vertex into any one of the intersections, and then you can go in and let me see if I think it makes a group of these. Yeah, it makes a group, so you ungroup it, and then you can go in and you can actually get rid of these pieces. Okay, so Pathfinder, like divide. Trim doesn't work the way that you think it's going to work in Pathfinder. You can experiment with all the different Pathfinder things.
So basically, like do scissors at every intersection?
Yeah, exactly. So it makes a scissor. So I'll just to show you exactly what that does. So I had these things touching each other. I go into Pathfinder, divide, and if I zoom in, this is what like Christian's saying, it actually adds. See, it adds a point right there. Then when I go in to ungroup these, this is separate from what's inside of it, and I can delete those. You have to ungroup it though. The scissors, I mean, depending on what you're doing, I like the scissors because again, this is a bit more work because you have to go in, select all the things that are involved in it, make the trim, ungroup it, and then pick the pieces. Whereas with the scissors, you just cut it and then delete the rest. You know, it's pretty manual. This works too though.
Can you toggle through like the scissor, like which line to pick?
Well, I mean, you have your choice of which ones to pick once it's been cut. So I could take out the one side and not the other side if I wanted to. I don't know if that's your question.
No, I mean like when you're choosing where to cut it.
Oh no, you don't choose. That's the thing about Pathfinder. I mean, Pathfinder, you don't choose where to cut it. It just makes every intersection a cut. Scissors, you actually click on it and it. Oh, you're asking me if you can do it. I think it does both. If you have two lines overlapping and you scissor it, I think it does both. If not, it does the one on top.
Oh, so that's how.
What's that? I don't know.
There's nothing like you can toggle like on Rhino. Like
I don't think so. You can verify experimentally. You could probably figure out how the tool works. I've never actually.
Select next object down.
Yeah.
If you right.
Again, or it might be the order of the pieces. I'm not exactly sure. That's a good question. So yeah, I already Pathfinder these guys, but yeah, scissors. I already. So it's good question. So it's like, are you cutting the one on top or are you cutting the one on the bottom? And Thomas, you said you could choose the one on. You could choose one or the other.
Well, if you right click, you can select next object down. Bottom of the menu.
Oh, down.
Oh.
Oh.
Next object below. But again, is it the one you're selecting that gets cut?
I've never used it with scissors.
Oh, you know what? Actually, I wonder if with okay. So with scissors, yeah. So here's the thing. I think it's whichever one you're highlighting first. Yeah. So let's try it. No? Doesn't seem to be. I think it's whichever one's on top gets cut. Because it makes, like, spatially, I think that makes sense. So if you change the order of the objects, just so you could pick the one and you could say, like, send it back. I could be wrong, but
Sorry, I just thought it was like an
Yeah.
easier way, like, you know.
that seems to
I
be.
do a lot of trimming by the thing, the extending. Like when you shift, you can do a lot with that tool.
You can. But sometimes you just want to. I mean, yeah, like what Thomas is saying. You could do this.
I think that's easier than scissoring.
That's a good hack. I gotta say.
It's not a hack.
You're using scale to trim something. It's a hack. And hack's not a bad thing.
I know.
I think it's a hack. All right. Yeah, you know what? Thomas's method. I mean, okay, but here's the thing. What if you had that circle?
I know you circles.
Touche. Touche.
And that's why.
Well played, Professor. All right. Okay, I have to move on to the next thing. Are there any burning questions, Matt?
Alright, so I've got a Rhino question about whenever you are making the 2D.
Yeah.
So you go to your view, and my particular view was inside, and I had stuff behind me that I wasn't viewing. And now whenever I made that 2D, it would, you know, transpose it, and all of the lines that were in my view, or not all of them, but a lot of them, were actually hidden because of what was behind me.
Yeah.
It was supposedly in the front. And so, is there any way that you could just, like, create some kind of cut so you just don't see?
So things that are behind you don't show up?
Yeah.
This is again why we're kind of misusing the tool. I mean, the only thing I can think of is just you're just going to have to deal with those lines. Like, you might sort those lines out that you know are real lines, but that show up as hidden. You might just put them on that layer. You might go in Illustrator and actually have to sort them out. I mean, it's hard because if you've got something that's visible, but it actually extends in front of you and behind you, you can't turn it off because you want to see it. You know, ideally you turn off whatever you can't see, whatever's behind you.
Or what about whenever there's like an entire floor, and when you select it, it selects the whole thing? Is there any way where you can break that up so where?
We're not doing that here. Yeah, it's binary. I mean, yeah, you could like slice it up, trim it. If we were doing all of the Rhino commands, yeah, there's lots of stuff you could do.
Well, that would probably fix my problem.
Yeah. Well, we're not going to do that though. I'm sorry.
A lot of people in my class had this problem with selecting visible in the perspective plane.
Yeah.
And what it would do is like skew lines, not add lines, take away a wall.
Yeah.
And for me, I wasn't even allowed to even choose select visible. I had to select all.
Yeah, select visible has some problems. If it doesn't work, you have to do select all, and you just have to deal with it. Like, it's not, again, we're kind of abusing it for what it's used for. Nick?
It's gonna be the same thing, but we were talking about in class, like if we put a clipping plane, it still sees the other stuff. Is there a way you can tell it to only see?
The way Make2D works, again, Make2D, guys, is actually, it's like if you had two 3D pieces of geometry and you wanted to make a 2D jig for that to actually cut that shape out, that's what it's for. It's actually just a method of actually like projecting that geometry. The way we're using it for a camera view is not what it's meant to do. So we're asking, there's no use of like the clipping plane because that's not the original use of the tool. It's just, you have to do a lot of work with this stuff. It doesn't just pop out, you know. And Make2D has its own problems, as I think you guys, some of the lines don't come in you think are going to, some of them, you know, again, I think my class had a lot of problems with like select visible, some of the people I talked to. Again, you just have to do select all. That'll take care of it. Or just like strategically turn things off so that you're, when you do select all, it doesn't make too many lines. I don't have any like really good answers for that kind of thing. Is there a question on this side of the room? Okay, I got Christian.
How we were capturing before and using the viewing window as like a frame for our image, could you do the capture and capture it to a vector file and open that in Illustrator instead of doing the Make2D?
I don't think it, I think what the problem is with that is that it's not going to sort the lines out, and it's not going to give you the hidden lines versus the like solid lines. You'll just get everything, and it's not going to be sorted. I'm actually going to show that right now. For your diagrams, you can you can send orthogonal views to Adobe Illustrator to use for your diagrams. Okay, so I have the right facade here. This is the back view, and I'm not doing Make 2D. Okay, so I'm just going to go ahead and like select visible. Okay, and then I go export selected, and I'm just going to save it. I already had this file named anyway, so save a snapshot. And then if I open this up, and again, I didn't do Make 2D. So I just get, and see, this is the thing, Christian, it gives you like all of the, those kind of, when you have a surface in Rhino, it has this kind of quad thing. It doesn't really exist, but it just shows you the structure of that surface. So you get every single line that's visible to that camera, even the kind of fakey like surface lines. You could use this though with snaps, right, to start diagramming. Okay, one light thing real quick. Nate, what's up?
But yeah, I was trying to do some orthos before we came in here, and I was doing the Make 2D, and then I pulled into Illustrator. It was like it was taking a section cut of the two-dimensional drawing. I don't know if that must have been because I tried to do it in Make 2D instead of just like.
Well, let's see what Make 2D makes.
The export visible, that's not scaled, right?
None. It's never like really, unless you say that it's scaled. Like, but the thing is, you don't want a 300-foot Illustrator file.
Right. You also want to be sure that all your orthographics are the same scale.
Yeah, and I'll talk about how to do that in a second here. So I did Make 2D on this one, and I can export selected. And let's just call this one facade 2. Just see the difference here. So I did this. This is outside of the building snapshot. So you could do model scale, and you could try this. You can have like so many feet to so many inches. I don't like always trust this in Illustrator, but feel free to experiment. So then if I open this up, it should be different than, yeah. So this one actually gives me what the camera kind of sees, right? The other one gives me what you see in the viewport. So to answer your question, Christian, if I did that perspective view, I would get every single, I would get the difference between this and like this, which could be a lot.
Do you do wireframe or do you do different types?
Doesn't matter. It doesn't. No, those views are just for humans. This is the like mathematical view.
So
it doesn't sort those out for you.
So even with like the shade, or not the shaded, the
shaded, ghosted, X-ray, wireframe, rendered, it's all going to be just like that.
quad line.
Yep. Yeah. So it's too much. I think.
Yeah.
I think. But so the difference between those two. So you can, Nate. I don't know why you would be getting a section cut. This is just outside. This is the orthogonal view. You can do a plan view, guys. If you turn things off, like turn off different floors, then you can make those different floor views in your orthographics. Okay. So again, this is just export selected in an orthographic view. This is Make 2D in an orthographic view. Okay. Okay. This is actually not what I want to talk about today. What I want to talk about today is producing axonometrics and isometrics out of Rhinoceros. And Rhinoceros lacks this capability currently because, again, it's not meant for architects, or at least it wasn't until fairly recently. New versions of it, I think, have the ability to do this, but we need a script to do it. And some of you guys have had comp methods, shouldn't have, but we're because we want to be covering these things in explicit detail. In comp methods, we might be looking at a program that's been actually like compiled. But in Rhino, we're just using like the commands in the program, okay? And a script, what a script is it's a list of commands in Rhino that produces an effect, okay? Just like a movie script, right? The movie script says a guy walks in and a guy shoots another guy and another guy runs away, right? There's a list of things that says what happens. In Rhinoceros, a script file is a text file that is just, so these are commands that you could type in. It's just a list of commands. It says you want to select something, you want to set the viewport to top, you want to rotate, okay? So this is the beginnings of this idea of computation, which is that I take a list of procedures that would take me a long time to do manually, and the script basically like compresses it for me, okay? And I'll show you this in practice here. So if I'm going to open up Thomas's Rhino file from the default. I got to open it up here. Oh, come on. Okay, fine. I'm going to open up my version of it. it's important to start it off in like the quad view, and I'll have this written out. So 4 views, and then I have my script file that we're gonna give you guys on Moodle, and you're gonna select everything and you're gonna copy it, and then you're gonna be in the top view. You're gonna paste it into your window. So Control D, select objects, fine, select all. Oh, I have to unlock my layers. And then you run the script. And what it did was it just ran all those commands really fast. Okay? Check it out. So that's your axonometric. Okay? Well, that's the point. So again, it's about a dozen commands. Like it takes it skews the model, it rotates the view, and then it basically makes this axonometric. And let me show you what happened. Yeah, your eyes aren't deceiving you, okay? This is a hack, okay? What it does is it actually shears the building 45 degrees so that when you're in a top view, you actually get it rotates the world 45 degrees and shears it, and that's what gives that to you, okay? So that means a couple of things have to happen. One, save your file before you do any of this stuff because it will destroy your file, okay? And 2, okay, you're like, well, that's great, Nick, but how do I get the other sides of the building? You should be asking that. So I have to undo. See, these are all the steps in the thing. So what you do is you have to pick the model. Oh, actually, unlock the model first. Okay. Select all. And then type rotate. So just like AutoCAD, you can rotate. You pick a center point. Okay. Pick a center point. And then you can type in the angle. And basically, whatever side is facing you is pointing down, right? In top view is down, is the right side of the axonometric, right? There's a left side and a right side. The right side, hello, is on the front, okay? So if I wanted like this face of the building to be front, how many degrees would I rotate this? 90 degrees? Okay. So I rotate it. And then with everything selected, well, actually, just you can run the script. And remember, you're just going to copy paste this. So like select, copy. You can use hotkeys too. Paste. And now it says select objects, find all. Press enter when done. Boom, boom, boom. Wasn't 90 though, was it? Okay. Now there's only 4 choices you have anyway. So if you mess it up, you can always try again. I think it's actually 180 is what you wanted. So.
If we're doing like a 30-60 instead of 45, is there another?
We're gonna have another script for that. Okay. This is 45. This is axonometric. Okay. Now again, what's nice about it is it doesn't distort the scale of it, right? It's still scalable. You can use this in Illustrator, and you can do exploded axonometrics. You can do your diagrams using this. This is going to generate all the lines you need. You might turn some things off and turn some things on, or hide some things and show some things, and then export all those lines and then lay them out together in Illustrator. Okay, it might take you a couple of round trips to get all the pieces you need. Okay, so that's axonometric. Let me run through the other script, and then I'll answer questions about.
Export using Make2D again?
Yeah, Make2D. Exactly, that's the idea. Okay. Let me run through the other one just to make sure you got, and then I'll. So this other one actually is a little bit different. That script is a macro script. It's just a list of commands. Okay. This other one is a compiled script. It works a little bit differently. So I'm going to go into Tools, and I'll go into Rhino script. Load, and I'm going to add, and this is on Moodle. This IsoMatch. Okay. And then. When you choose it and you say load, and now it's already running. So we're in main menu, and there's different ways of doing this of using this tool. There's the presets, and then there's custom pick. Okay, and let's go ahead and click preset values, and now here you can select what angle the x-axis is. So 30 degrees, and I can just press enter, or I can type it in, and then what angle the y-axis is, and I can also say 30 degrees, and then the z-axis. I think you probably want to say positive most of the time. It says, I think it actually knows auto. Z-axis is which direction is up. Okay. Hit positive. Camera rotation. I can also type in the rotation I want. Show camera line. No. Okay. And what that actually produces, actually, let me check this back. It didn't work. Okay. Oh, you know what? Okay, let me run that again really quick. Okay, so go into the script, run the, what's that? Oh, yeah, you know what? I locked the layers. Did it again. I gotta, you know what? I gotta save this file without it locked. Thank you. Just goes to show you. Okay, let's do it again. Load, preset, 3030, positive, 0, no camera line. Okay, except what did it? It didn't do anything. Maybe I do. We'll figure it out. Okay, one more time. It's not in my script though. Okay, preset. I'm not sure. Let me take. I'll go back and this worked before. Nope, that's not it though. That should have done it. Okay. Yeah, I'll have to look at that again. Let me try one more thing. Let me get the default file. All these are designed to work with the file, and I may have changed something. Okay, while I'm doing that, any questions about the procedure with the first one at least? Does that seem to work pretty well? Okay. Yeah, I mean, you make the axon, and then you make multiple. You do multiple make 2Ds of it, and then those are the pieces for the exploded axon.
And you compile them in Illustrator.
Yeah, compile them in Illustrator. Exactly.
And are we going to touch on how they keep the scales the same?
Yeah, that's the if I have a second if I can't get to it, I'll put together a video for it. Okay, let me just grab the default file and see if that doesn't make a difference. I'm not exactly sure what the setting, why that setting doesn't work, but it worked for me this morning. Okay, one more time. Computers. Okay, so everything's unlocked. I got the view. You have to be focused in top view, and then I'm going to load the script. And it should be fine. Preset value 30.
So it knows the script is on your desktop?
Yeah, it looks for where it last was. Let me just see if it works with it. Script not successful. Okay. Oh, you know what? Maybe I have to be in perspective view. It says no perspective view found. Let's run the script again. Okay. One of these days it'll work. Positive. Okay, that worked. Okay, so that looks pretty similar, but that's actually isometric. And again, with this one though, it's all in the script, so you can actually rotate the view within the script, so you can type in whichever angle you want. And it also creates it doesn't destroy your model, it makes it a perspective viewport. So the top view, so if I run that again, I can just go up to Tools, Run, and then choose my script. And then let's do it again. So you can also do custom pick, and that actually lets you draw the angle. The other thing that I can do is I can change the values. So I have a list of these values. So for an isometric, it's 30-30. For a dimetric, you want to do 42 degrees and 7 degrees. Was I in perspective last time? Okay, so I need to update my script because that's not is not it. Mine says top. Okay, so let's do run isomatch. No. Okay. Preset values, and I want to say 42, 7. Let's just use the defaults for all these. Okay, yeah, you got to be in perspective view. Okay, I'm like a magician whose tricks are falling apart here. Okay. So that is a dimetric. I have the listings for a trimetric. It's 44 or 15. But anyway, using this, you can construct some different views, and this is something that you can. I know there are third-year students that are still using this. Now, I actually messed up my camera. If you move the camera at all, if you orbit or whatever, it's gone. You have to redo that whole thing. Okay, so you have to go back through and like run the script again. Okay, so and I think it preserves your. I think it preserves your defaults, so just make that, it's not, okay, let's do trimetric then. 44, 15, defaults, yeah. Oops. Yeah, there we go, okay. So you can pan and zoom, just don't orbit, or it'll mess up your camera, because it uses the perspective view to set that up. So if somebody had a question, I'll just do that. Question? So the two scripts, there's one for axonometric, and it is destructive. And then there's one non-destructive one, and it's an actual compiled like Rhino script file. Okay, so the one has kind of menus and it has options. The other one is just fire and forget. You just paste it and it just runs through it. Okay, and so this is the again this idea of like computation is you take a set of procedures that you would do over and over and over again, right? And you write like a small program, or somebody writes a small program, and it just automates that process. Okay, so that's kind of what we do, some of what we do in computational methods, right? Okay, questions, and then I'll talk about layout.
So whenever you're talking about doing multiple make 2Ds to do an exploded axon,
yeah.
Would you just like copy the building, delete everything from if you're doing the second floor, delete everything from the first and third floor?
We'll probably hide it. I wouldn't delete it because then you'd actually have to undo all that stuff. Okay. But you could, yeah, I mean, you could certainly from this view, you could actually probably save this camera view. That would probably be a smart thing to do. So, I mean, I'm just going to name it something terrible, but so that if I did actually end up messing it up, yeah, okay, so you can save your camera views. That's a good idea. So then Nate, you could go through and do that stuff, and then you don't have to worry about losing your camera view. But yeah, I would just hide things and then do make 2D and then unhide them and then hide new ones and make 2D and until you get all the pieces you need. I don't think you can do it all in one go. So
for the axon, for every piece that you want to explode from it, how many times you have to save it?
I mean, if you're smart and you can divide it up so that the things aren't touching each other, or you can separate them out. I mean, yeah, but yeah, basically you do have to kind of do multiple passes at it. You have to kind of sort it out. I don't think, because again, if something's hidden, it's going to obscure the next thing down. Yeah. But okay. So real quick, I'm going to grab.
Amber, you need to stop whispering. Okay?
I'm going to go ahead and grab another orthographic. So I'm going to grab another orthographic and try to scale the two to the same scale. So export selected. Snapshot. Okay, so if I go in, I'm going to go ahead. I could have just grabbed that one, but okay. So I'm going to go in, I'm going to open up my third facade file, group them. And that kind of compresses the layers, but I mean, I'm just going to scale them right now. Paste it in. So I got a problem already with these, right? And is that they're not scaled to the same size yet. And I could do some things where I could look at the transform of each of them, and I could make it so since they're roughly one's the front side and one's the back side, so they have the same width. So if I looked at them, I could try typing in, let's say 5 inches. I need to group these together actually to do that. Group. I could try typing it in. And then these two would probably be the same size. I could draw a line on one of the layers, and I could line one of these up against it. And then let's kind of blow this one up here. Just scale it. I could line the other one up against it. And then I could draw draw another line. So kind of like guidelines. I could use guidelines to do this. And then I can just, holding shift, scale it. Oh, except it doesn't let me, it doesn't let me snap to that though. I don't know if I would do that.
You can do it with the smaller.
With what now?
Like start with smaller. With that one.
And start and scale up. Yeah, you know what? You're right, Nick. Yeah. So like Nick said, one way to do that is start with it. Just scale it smaller, holding shift, and then scale it up until you snap to. Oh, wait a minute though. It depends on. Oh, go up and snap to it. There you go. Yeah, you guys got it. Yeah. So again, you could do if they're grouped, you can do the transform technique. If they're not, you can try visually scaling it, and I guess as you're holding shift and transforming, pull up, and you'll pop to that line. Okay. And if you do, if you get enough of these, you can get them to scale. Again, this is visually scaling things. It's not as nice as if we were going to do it in like AutoCAD.
Well, if you just need the width of the building, you could do it by doing transforming the width, right?
Yeah, the width. Well, wait a minute. You're saying if you knew the width of the building?
Like if the building's 50 feet wide, and you change the.
But that assumes that you had the same when you exported everything, it was exactly the same zoom, because they come in at whatever the snapshot was. So like if I export it like this or if I export it like that, those are going to be different sizes when they like come in.
Yeah, I'm saying like.
Figure out. Oh, you mean actually measure it and figure out what the scale would be?
So
I
if
see.
you print it off, you can picture scale it to it.
You could do that. You could figure out. You could draw a 4-inch line and then you could actually pull it, to that scale. Yeah, there's lots of different ways to do it. But visually might work faster for some of you. Transform works pretty well for me as long as it's the same length. I think that works pretty well. So these are both 5 inches. Yeah, pretty close, within 100th. So to lay things out, I think that's a technique that you could use. Make sure to help each other out. Some of you guys know Illustrator more. Some of you guys, if you see someone who got something to work, ask them how they did it. Okay? Don't wait to come back to class or say like I couldn't figure it out. If you see someone in lab, or if you see like an upper year student, all the third years should know how to do this by now. They did their layouts with this. They should know these techniques too. So they're a resource, and you guys will be a resource next year as well. So kind of like work with that. We're at time. Any final questions about all this?
When you do transform, would it be better to do the height as a scale? That way when you do the size, go ahead and write it.
You can do either. I mean, I think when you're in transform, I mean, you've got both of them. So I think it's if they're looking at the same side of the building, you can do that. Yeah, but height probably applies to all 4 sides. Yeah. Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, just use your common sense. Okay.
So does it seem like group for 1 minute, just outside?
Me too.
Yeah, me 3.